Hey all, this is my module 4, KESA. I'm going to go ahead and jump right in so I have enough time to be able to discuss everything. The person I did interview I'm part of the Spring Hill School District, and I interviewed my principal at Spring Hill Middle School. His name is Rod Sprague, and he has been our principal there since 2011. He is working on his doctorate in curriculum, so I figured he would be an amazing person to talk about with this KESA topic, as he's already been discussing with our staff members about this. So I was a little bit familiar with it, but I was able to dig into it quite a bit. Real quick, what the 5 R's for the KESA framework even are. Relationships, which are establishing connections between all stakeholders. That includes staff, students, families, and community. Relevance, that's specific information to meet the needs of students, allowing them to be motivated, engaged, empowered, connect to the real world, and socially stable. You can do this through curriculum, instruction, student engagement, and technology. Then there's responsive culture, and that is reacting to suggestions, influences, appeals, efforts, and/or opportunities by empowering all stakeholders, and that's through leadership, early childhood, district climate, and nutrition and wellness. The fourth one was rigor, which provides challenging opportunities to demonstrate growth and learning. You can do this through career/technical education, professional learning, resources, and data. Those are the 4 that we had a rubric for, but then the last, or the 5 R's, was results, and that's evidence of growth, whether that is social emotional, kindergarten readiness, individual plans of study, high school graduation, and post-secondary completion or attendance. So when interviewing Rod Sprague, my principal, I just went through the 3 questions we were given. The first one is your building/district a model institution or just beginning? What is a brief analysis of your assessment of the R's? Okay, so of those 4. What he said, it was like, we're not a model, but we're not at the beginning either. We're kind of right there in the middle. In the video, he talked about year 0, and we started before year 0, the year before that. So we were -1, I guess, year -1. But seeing other districts, we were right there in the middle. We still have a ton of work to do. Right now we're working on getting staff to understand what they are first, and getting a true needs assessment for where we are at. So figuring out what we actually need to work on. But we are starting with professional learning communities, so PLCs, which I'll be talking quite a bit. So analyzing how the 4 ones we have rubrics, relationships. We are pretty good with the relationships with our staff, students, and families, and we are now working on bringing in the community. Relevance, we're also kind of right there in the middle working. I'd say we're in the middle for most of them, because we were working on curriculum, so we're building curriculum maps and our student learning targets so we can align vertically and horizontally with our curriculum. Responsive culture, we are just kind of starting that right now, where we are working with the social emotional needs and not just focusing on the academics, which I like quite a bit, as in today's day and age we need to focus on that. And then rigor, that's part of our professional learning communities, the PLCs, is creating those student learning targets so we can truly assess what we need to, and make it rigorous for the students. Question number 2 is, what is your principal's leadership style/approach? Connect back to the leadership theories you discovered in module 1. Which theory describes him or her? How do you know? I already had one in mind, and I didn't tell him, and I asked him, and it was the same, and that is transformative leadership theory. Transformational leadership is a relatively new approach to leadership that focuses on how leaders can create valuable and positive change in their followers. And he mentioned many times that he wants to create leaders. His goal is to put people into position to lead. He's not a very commanding leader. He likes to give people the opportunity to shine. As he gets older, he's kind of changed, and he said now it's all about developing others and their leadership skills, and he's there to give guidance. He kept mentioning what was his legacy that he wanted to leave behind, and he wants to leave behind leader. And then he said that you can't even be a commanding leader if you are truly meeting all 4 of the R's of the rubric. And lastly, the question is, what area for school improvement did the 2 of you identify? So no evidence or implementing And how would you approach those areas to improve? What would you do? When describing your vision, please identify and explain at least three PSEL standards that support your approach. And we both immediately thought of the PLCs that we're working on this summer. They sent me and a bunch of other teachers to St. Louis for a big training on how to correctly do professional learning communities. So we had no evidence, and now we're just now implementing that. So that is our main focus right now in our building in our district. So the three standards I felt that aligned with this and the focus on what's best for students are Standard 2E, which is place children at the center of education and accept responsibility for each student's academic success and well-being. And we can do that through our PLCs and creating those student learning targets so that we know what the kids have mastered and what they have not. The second standard I chose was Standard 3A, and that is ensure that each student is treated fairly, respectfully, and with an understanding of each student's culture and context. And that's part of that social and emotional, so we can make sure we're meeting the needs of all students. And that is as well part of that professional learning community processes of talking and identifying students that we need to help. And then lastly, Standard 4B is align and focus systems of curriculum, instruction, and assessment within and across grade levels to promote student academic success, love of learning, and identities and habits of learners, and healthy sense of self. In which I talked a little bit about the curriculum part with aligning horizontally and vertically, which it is definitely a work in progress in our district, and school specifically is focusing on this area of improvement. Our vision is what is best for students, and we believe that building these professional learning communities and being able to create student learning targets, that we can create common assessments based off of those so that we can truly create data that is actually useful data that we can use. I found that this project on exploring KESA and going through it was very profitable. Like I said, we've already been talking about it in our district, but this allowed me personally to dig into it, especially the 4 rubrics and reading through and assessing whether or not my district in different parts we have no evidence, or implementing, transitioning, or not modeling anything. We might be getting a transitioning on a few. But other than that, I feel like I've learned a lot during this module.